Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Facebook Live. I'm joined by Yvonne from the feature team.
Hello.
And Alan from the fiction team.
Hi.
And we're here to talk about school memories. This was sparked off by a couple of conversations that were happening in the office yesterday about things that you remember from school. And actually, Yvonne and I found out just before we came on the camera here that I went to primary school directly across from where you went to secondary school.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Dundee is not a huge place, but this was, I suppose, between my eventual high school and your high school, there was a rivalry there.
There was a huge rivalry.
We were not fans of one another.
No. Although that was completely different decades, I have to say, when we attended high school.
Will we say?
No, leave it there, thank you.
Everyone knows. And yourself, Alan, you went to
Bill Baxter in Fife, yeah. And again, we had that rivalry between Bill Baxter's two big schools in Fife, or the northeast of Fife, and Madras and St Andrews. And I believe when I went to school in the 1980s, early 1980s.
Don't put a decade on it, Alan.
Madras was the school to go to, but I believe possibly it is Bill Baxter now. But I don't know how if it's results driven that they sort of judge the schools on, or who wins the most sporting events. I'm not sure, but it's an interesting topic, to see sort of the most popular school, or it might be just a thing between the kids and, my school's better than your school, so to speak.
As Harris Academy is there. We're joined by Harriet. Morning, Harriet.
Good morning.
Hi.
And I was having a chat with our colleague Margaret, who opted not to join us on camera today, but did have some memories to share. This was from when she was at primary school. She was talking about how her headmaster, she went to 14 schools because she was a RAF baby. And she was talking about how some of her headmasters used to take time out of their schedules, like at lunchtime and things, to do extracurricular things with the kids. So one of them was exposing them to classical music. He was playing classical music to a group of them. And one of them took it upon himself to teach the children French. But he had never heard a French person speak. He was entirely self-taught. And then he passed on kind of his interpretations of the French language to the children.
I would love to hear that.
I think that sounds absolutely fantastic. It might confuse actual French people, but nevertheless.
Yeah, but it's a good point, because you remember certain teachers more than others. And I know, even going back to primary school, Mrs. Radcliffe that taught us, it must have been about 6 or 7, but she was the gentlest, most patient teacher that you can imagine. So you remember the good ones, and from secondary school, there was an English teacher, Mrs. Gardner, I believe, and again, just had a real quiet, studious way about her. But you always basically listened to what she was saying, and I think the good ones do stand out, and an opposite side of the coin, no doubt the bad ones stand out as well, but for different reasons. So
I had a wonderful history teacher by the name of Mr. Darcy.
And
he was so lovely.
A great name for a history teacher.
I know, but he was very, very passionate. And all you had to do was ask a question, and he would just go on for 20 minutes talking passionately. Meanwhile, we didn't do any work. But yeah, we all loved him.
One of the main reasons he was appreciated, you could just sort of wind him up and let him go. We're joined by Elizabeth. Morning, Elizabeth.
Morning.
Do you share your school memories with us here, and we'll try to talk about them as well, because I'm sure we'll have had sort of similar-ish experiences. I was thinking there when you were talking about teachers, was there a teacher, do you think, that inspired you in particular to do what you're doing, sort of journalist work, or did that kind of come upon you later on? Was there, because I was thinking that there was an English teacher I had at high school who really, I was going to go to university to study engineering, and I decided based on the class with this teacher that I was going to go and study English literature instead. So did either of you have any of those experiences?
I think going back to Mr. Darcy, he definitely gave me my interest in history. So, and I went to night classes to do higher history, and thoroughly enjoy it still. So I would have to say.
I enjoyed, like Yvonne, history and English, and English at secondary with Mrs. Gardner. At the time, I probably took it for granted, but I think what she said just sunk in and it made me appreciate just words and stories. And that's when I started writing stories the first time. And I wouldn't say I was particularly good at it, but I enjoyed it, and I wanted to know more. And I think that was through her teaching as well. So certainly made a difference. You say we still remember the names now,
Absolutely, and that's a long time ago.
Exactly.
In a decade yet to be named. So on a kind of similar note, I was talking about the Scholastic Book Fair. Did that exist? I went to school in the 90s, and it used to come round to all the schools in Dundee. It was a big book fair would come into your library, and they would have great big cases full of books. And it would be an exciting thing. Like, we had a library and it had books and things in it, but you were bored of all of them. You'd gone through them all already. And this kind of truck would come round kind of once every 6 months or something with a load of new books. And I would pester my mother to give me money, and you would go and buy the books from this thing. And I remember it being a big thing. She all got out of class, 2 or 3 classes at a time, and then you got to go down to the big kind of hall and wander around and pick out all these books. That's a very strong memory for me. Like, I can remember the smell of this library because it had a particular kind of that new book sort of smell.
And attached to a happy event for you, then you obviously enjoyed it. I don't remember us having that, but I do recall my daughters enjoying that.
Yeah. Did you read the books enough to hand them back then, Ian? Or?
No, you bought those
Okay,
ones.
I see. You bought them,
that was, I used to kind of wait until it was coming up and then commence pestering my mother, being like, so the book fair is in school next week, and things are roughly about 5 to 10 quid. Have you got any money? Because I never had any. But it was great. It was a great school memory, and I'm sure there are sort of plenty of people that can have that shared experience. That if you mention it to somebody, I mentioned it to Alex, our features editor, yesterday, and he sort of nodded and smiled at me like he knew what I was talking about, but I think he might have been just humouring me, to be honest. We've been joined by Diana. Good morning, Diana. And Leslie. Leslie says, lovely to hear about the memories. Thank you very much. She's a teacher and passionate about her vocation. And she's talking about an incredible English teacher, Miss Bertha Monroe, who taught her to love poetry. These things can be important. Obviously, it is said formative memories when you're a kid. You know, you do obviously take it with you.
We talked about subjects that we enjoyed. Were there any particular subjects that you just, you either didn't enjoy or you didn't have an aptitude for?
Definitely maths for me.
Snap.
But I lived in fear, A, because I could not grasp anything, and B, I used to chop the chalk duster at anyone that wasn't paying attention or couldn't do whatever was required. So there was an element of fear whenever I walked into that classroom.
I could understand that.
I won't name them.
I was hopeless at arithmetic, and I remember I actually had to take extra lessons. It was extra arithmetic lessons, whatever. And so there was a good teacher, and there was only a few in the class, but I used to write my sevens, the European, the continental sevens with the horizontal line through, and she kept on going, Alan, you can't do that, you can't do that, you can't do that. And so it just drummed it out of me, so I had to do it the way it is in this country. But maybe she knew something with on the sort of cusp of post-Brexit, that
was a very forward-looking teacher.
Back in the early 80s. So I always remember that. But I wasn't pretty good at arithmetic, but I didn't hate it. I just felt I didn't have an aptitude for it. But I don't think you can be good at everything.
No, you can't. So what, do you have a weak subject?
French. We kind of, I think the kind of push to teach people languages started roughly about the time I was in primary school, because I remember one of my teachers had to go to a training course and kind of take it up, kind of like Margaret's teacher, or they forced him to do some formal training. And then when we went into high school, I spoke French in this accent. I couldn't grasp the idea that you had to try and kind of make the right noises with your face when you're trying to speak French. So I just spoke like this. And so I could grasp the written stuff
Yeah.
because I could see it in front of me and I could figure, because it's pattern recognition, so you just recognise that scribble means this word.
Mhm.
And then as soon as anyone asked me to speak it, just collapse with laughter and roll around the floor. It was horrendous.
Essentially, it was a Sean Connery way.
It
of
was
speaking French,
indeed,
so
yeah. I was just going to
Yes.
try and brass it out like he does, just speak in the same accent. I think French people would be very confused by me. Excuse me, I'm going to just scroll down here for some of the comments. We've been joined by Elizabeth. Hello, Elizabeth. Sadly, I had one who used to smack us for poor writing.
Yeah.
Oh dear. This was every day. Never made any difference to my writing.
Oh.
It's so funny that never that approach never really worked.
Oh, I think things have changed because that was the norm
Mm.
way back in
Yeah,
the day, you know,
and
where the ruler would be over the
yeah,
knuckles.
and you know,
It was tough.
the belt was still enforced when I was
Absolutely.
at school.
Did you ever get the belt?
I possibly once, yes.
Oh, there's a story here.
Yes, but nothing
No.
too bad. So yeah, but you know, the belt, I think, but then it obviously got phased out, and that's a sort of contentious issue, you know, about that sort of discipline and things like that.
I remember some of my teachers looking back fondly on the days when they could belt. Like vocalize, like if you'd gone to school 10 years ago,
Yes.
I'd have
Absolutely.
battered you,
Yeah.
or words to that effect.
Yeah.
It's the
The
toys, that's what
The
it was called.
toys, yeah.
wasn't
And
it?
some of them used to
Belt.
keep them in special bags or special rooms. You know, they used to like thing it out on a sort of pillow. You know, it's like
Soak them in vinegar.
the, hor-
Yeah, like really look after it.
Yes.
the horror stories.
I
you
can
know.
remember, I think it was Judy, our production editor, was telling me a story of getting the belt, or someone who used to give the belt out in our school, and to get maximum leverage, they used to climb up onto a chair and leap down like a samurai and wallop people's hands, which is just...
I know. Right?
I don't think that's the right way to teach children.
I'm not
No,
certain
no,
it is. No, I can't agree with that
That
myself.
might be slightly tongue in cheek. I hope.
It's possible, but kind of equally possible that it happened, unfortunately. Elizabeth's also talking about the headmistress in our senior school who knew the name of everybody, of every pupil, which
That
is...
personal touch.
Yeah. And Jackie and I, another colleague who intermittently joins us on Facebook Live, went to the same primary school a couple of years apart. I won't tell you who went first. That was her. And we were talking about the headmaster there and similar memories. He was a really positive, kind of cheerful guy, and he seemed to know everybody. There must have been about 120, 150 people at the school, or pupils at the school, and he seemed to know every single one of them by name.
So your school sounds like a fun place to be.
Yeah.
I remember our headmaster would put fear of God in people, and you wouldn't even make eye contact
Yeah.
with them.
I'm
Walking
similar
along
to
the
one.
corridor, it was the head down and go past quickly
don't-
without running. Of
Because
course.
then that would get you into further trouble.
Absolutely.
A similar age, but our headmasters are probably the same. They actually wore the black cloaks
Yes,
and the
Fearsome figures.
the mortar
that's right.
hats, and they didn't carry canes, but they had this, you know.
There was the implied cane,
Yeah,
which
Yes.
is almost worse than
yes.
physical
It's
cane.
like the Dracula passing by, get up against the wall, you just avoid eye contact. But again, maybe just it shows you in a space of like 10 years or 20 years. Things
Yeah, the
change.
difference in kind of
Yeah.
approaches.
Yeah. Yeah.
And obviously, I mean, I have bad memories of school, but they're trivial compared to the days when you used to get belted for
Yeah.
doing things wrong, and the air of fear that seemed to pervade.
We did also
schools.
have good days with teachers that wanted to teach children that were passionate about the job,
Yes.
Mhm.
and that came over in lessons, and you enjoyed those lessons.
Yeah.
So it wasn't all fear.
It wasn't all just
No.
being in abject terror all the time.
Yeah. I think as well that when we were in school, that they still have houses. Is it houses? You know, so that
Yes.
and again you had that kind of
rivalry.
sporting rivalry. But to me, it brought out the best in like the kids and having that competitive spirit. You know, as long as it was sort of reined in, and you have friends, colleagues that are in different houses, but you all come together and try your best for particular houses.
Yeah, I think it was good because it made you team up with people that you might not have partnered up
Yeah.
with otherwise. It was a good way
Yeah.
to integrate different
It sort of made me care about things I wouldn't have cared about before. I wasn't very into sport as a
Yes,
child, and when it became inter-house competition, suddenly everyone is pulling in the same direction. So yeah, it did have that
I
sort
was
of thing.
fascinated how the houses, I remember in primary school they were named after farms, in sort of Fife, the northeast Fife. So it always amazed me how they got the names, and the history behind the names, and it'd be quite interesting to look into that,
It would be actually. That's a good link to,
Yeah.
as you say, the agriculture area that
Yeah.
the school
And I always
was.
remember back again primary school, Craigie, the house I was in had a yellow badge, and I always remember the colour of the badge. That's going back many years. So these things still resonate.
And were you any good at the team sports?
To be honest with you, everyone, I think I thought I was better than I actually was, so I tried, but I just, I maybe wasn't the fittest or the most talented when it came to, running or football, but I enjoyed it, so that's it, half the battle, I think.
Well,
Yes, that is.
that's participating and enjoying yourself. These are the things that I stick to with sporting events as well. Diane's telling us that the headmaster at our last school, which is in Warwickshire, used to take them swimming, and they used to call him the whale because he made such a big splash when he was jumping in the water. I don't think you'd have got away with calling your headmaster the whale by the sounds of the stories you're telling.
That would be hushed tones.
I was actually asked in my job interview for this job, I was asked by Judy, the production editor, who went to the same high school as me, what house I was in.
Okay.
And she said, it'll have no bearing on your job, but what house were you in? And I thought, I'm not going to say, just in case there's something going on here. I need a secret handshake or something.
But I did enjoy myself at school. I actually left on my 16th birthday, which now, looking back, I think, what was I thinking of?
I did too.
I wanted to just get into the big wide world and do my own thing. So I think now, looking back, I would do it all differently and go straight to uni or whatever, So, but hindsight's a wonderful thing, And so I think school, you don't appreciate it at the time, but again, looking back, you think, I did a lot of good, and so hopefully moulded us into.
That's it. Sometimes you take a different route to where you are, but it's all an experience, isn't it?
So following on from that, here's a question. When I were a lad, my parents used to say the same thing to me, which was best days of your life. I used to complain because I just don't like getting up. I would be like, I don't want to go to school. And well, these are the best days of your life. You're supposed to be enjoying these. And the implication was that life was about to get terrible, I think, which was kind of disturbing. But is that something that you heard when you were younger?
I did hear that, but I wouldn't agree with it.
Well, that was the next
much
question.
preferred my working life and being a proper grown-up.
Being allowed to do things and spend money.
Yes,
I think would parents still not say that to their kids now, your best years?
I think some would, because there's a lot of responsibility. I think especially actually with older kids waiting for results, which will be coming out pretty soon. I think that's quite a tough time.
It can be quite stressful.
So it's maybe a gentle way to remind them to stick in, and just give it your all while you're there. Because before you know it,
that's it.
You're out working for a living, hopefully. So it's tricky, but.
So as for you getting up in the morning, there was the question of should we say to pupils or start them 10 o'clock in the morning instead of 9?
Oh, right.
Because there was something like to teenage years and you need to sleep longer in the morning and stay up later at night. Would you have agreed with that?
I think that sounds like nonsense. I mean, I would have agreed with it if they told me that I could get up at 10 o'clock or get up to go into school for 10 o'clock. I'd have definitely agreed with it. But I think demonstrably everyone has been doing 9 o'clock for so long and with very little ill effect. I don't think that would be a thing. I mean, if they said it here, I would definitely do it too. If I could start at 10 o'clock, that would be wonderful.
I would be the opposite, actually. I'd much prefer to start earlier and
finish early.
And you have to remember the commute as well. I remember from my home to Cooper, it's like 12 miles or something. So there's that commute, half an hour in the bus, the old berry buses, as we used to call them back then. And, they used to break down more often than not. And before, the heating and.
I think mine was about 3 or 4 miles, and
Mhm.
if I wanted to buy sweets, I would walk to school rather than get the bus and use the money to buy sweets.
Excellent.
You probably get up half an hour early
Yeah,
just to get
it
to
was worth it.
school.
You see, that's dedication. That's you had a goal in mind and you went
Yes.
straight for it.
Putting the keep fit in there as well.
I was only a couple of minutes away from school. It took me 10 minutes to walk to school because it's just down the hill from where my parents used to live.
You know what?
Fall out of bed and into school.
It was perfect for me.
What might be interesting as well, in all my years, but I think primary school and secondary schools, but definitely secondary, I never had a school dinner once, you know.
Oh.
Never tried school dinner. So
Did you go home for lunch then?
no,
Or
just
packed lunch?
no, just like money from parents to buy food, but obviously again, back in the 80s, things were cheap, so £1.50 can get you, you know, pretty much a 3-course meal.
Can go a long way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I never had a school dinner, you know. So you'd hear it again, you'd hear horror stories, all the rhubarb and custard or whatever. But no doubt it has improved somewhat nowadays. Jamie Oliver is, you know,
Yeah.
Banning all the stuff that tastes good.
I remember
Yeah.
primary school and pink custards, which I absolutely
That
detested.
seemed to be a
And the
trend.
little bottles of milk that would
Mm.
warm up over the morning. So by the time we got them at break, they were just too warm to enjoy. I can't stand warm milk.
Well,
And
again,
tapioca as well was
Yeah.
another one that I
That's the semolina. Semolina is a thing I've never had at any
No.
other time in my life
Mm.
apart
No.
from school dinners and primary school.
and free milk, we get a free bottle of milk.
That
you know.
was it.
It got stolen by the time I got there by a certain lady.
Oh, really?
It was always 10 o'clock or 10:30. But again, in the summer's day, you just left out, you know, and you'd be like, it's
This has got
Not
pulse.
it's the best.
Anyway, we will leave the school days chat there, but do keep commenting below, and we will get involved in the conversation. We'd love to hear what your school memories were. Obviously, we've discovered today that they can be vastly different, but there's some definite common themes running through it about good teachers and bad teachers, and just experiences of your childhood that school was kind of inextricably linked to. So we'd love to hear from you. And other than that, we will see you next week for next week's Facebook Live. Thank you very much for joining us.
Okay, bye.
Okay,
See you later.
bye.